Now that your shirt is cut out, it's time to put in the markings and cut some notches. So what you're going to do, and I will use this notch here, is you're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut in from the edge of the fabric right to the point. Just one snip. And what that is going to do is to give you a little indication of how to line your pieces up, okay? So I'm going to start this with your side panel, which is piece number 4. I'm going to go around and notch all the places. Please keep an eye on where your size is. There'll be your size ranges are here. Mine's a little different than yours. Your size range will be here, so make sure that you clip at the level where your size is, okay? So on piece 4, the only thing that you're going to worry about are the notches. So let's go ahead and clip all the notches on piece 4. Also to note, you'll see here there's a little marking, and please notice that this is for either view A or B. So on this particular, this is the side seam of your garment, and for this garment we are not putting in the vent, we're going to sew it all the way down to the hem, just so you know. Now moving on to the center front of the garment, same thing, I'm going to go through and snip all my notches, and this time I need to mark where my pocket is going to line up. So what I want you to do is not to use your tracing paper, but to take a needle and thread. I want you to wax your thread. If you haven't gotten some wax, you actually can just use a candle. Beeswax is a little better, but if you have a candle at home, just pass your thread through your wax. Not only does it make the thread stronger, which we really don't need for this process, but it provides a little tooth to the thread to stay in. So what we're going to do, this is called Tailor Tacking. So what we're going to do is to find your size, find the circle for your size, and again, just remember I'm using a little bit of a different size than you, and I'm going to stick the thread through exactly the center of the hole and then clip it. A nice long thread. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Get it right smack in the center and leave it open. No knots. Just put your thread in. Then what I'm going to do is to take my pattern piece and open it up and take this thread, give it a little tug, and snip it. Then I'm going to adjust it because I don't want it to come out. They do come out sometimes, but that's why the waxing is good. It kind of gives it a little stickiness that sticks to the fabric. Okay, and snip. So now where my pocket is lining up is marked on my fabric. That's called Tailor Tacking, okay? And I'm going to go ahead now and snip all my notches because they're going to be very important for these next few steps. Next is my yoke. Same thing. I'm going to snip my notches, and this time I'm going to mark right here. That's going to be your gathering point for your sleeve cap. So that's going to line up with your sleeve when you set your sleeve in. So that's an important one to have. Okay? So snip your notches on your yoke and tailor tack your mid-armhole. You can take all the pins out except the one. Keep one where the grain is. Keep your pattern piece pinned to your cut pieces until you're ready to use them, just in case you need to refer them. And then once they're done, you can just fold them up and put them aside. I wouldn't put them back in the envelope. Put them into your storage box that you can grab them easily so that they don't get mixed up with the other pieces that are in the envelope. So stick them into your storage bag aside for now until your pieces are together. Next, and the last piece is your pocket. So what you're going to do is to tailor tack where the fold line is, where these two dots are. Those are going to match up to the two that you marked on your front pieces. I think it was on just the center front piece. Okay, so these are going to line up with those dots. So the pocket will be straight. What I want you to do now is to take a piece of interfacing. This is not in the pattern, and I want you to cut it. The pattern, my pocket, measure yours. I'm sure they're the same. The pocket is I believe 4 3/4 inches wide. And I want this to be able to go on that fold line on the pocket. Pockets almost always have a little bit of interfacing on that edge because it helps it to stay nice and stiff and not collapse. So cut yourself a piece of interfacing that is about 3/4 of an inch high by the length of the pocket. Then that piece of interfacing is going to line up with your two marks here. So that's where you know where your fold line is. You can line your interfacing up with those threads and put in a pin. Hold it in place. And now you're going to see you have a little bit extra here that's going to get folded over. And then this will end up getting folded over also. It will look something like this. So you're going to baste it on first, baste the interfacing on first so it doesn't shift at all. And then you're going to take that 1/4 inch and you're going to press it with your iron over. It just makes it easier. And then I'm going to go ahead and stitch that, but I'll get to the pocket in a bit. But that's the prep for the pocket. So cut your interfacing, baste your interfacing here, line up the edge of the interfacing with your tailor tacks for the pocket attachment, turn under your 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then just leave it. We'll get to the pocket in a bit. So now I'm looking at the right side of my fabric. This is the side that goes out. I'm going to press it open, and this is the side that goes on the wearer's right. So regardless, I'm going to press it over to the side seam and press it again. And now I'm going to go in and do my flat felt seam here. I'm going to trim off the edge that's closest to the side seam, and then I'm going to take my top seam and turn it under and top stitch it. Okay, so let's do that much. So I've got my seams in, my two princess seams in. Make sure you do it on the front. I'm sorry, you do it on the right and you do it on the left. Now I'm going to take my yoke piece and do the same thing. I'm going to give this a little press. One thing you can do to make sure you don't lose your tailor tack threads is at this point, I know for my pockets, I really don't want to lose those. So what I've done here is just gone and tied knots in them so that they'll stay. They'll stay and I can sew right over these. So again, I'm working with wrong sides together. When I pinch it, I can see my notch right there. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to sew it, press it open. Okay, so I have my yoke attached to the body of my shirt, the front body of my shirt. You can see here that your tailor tacks come pretty much right to where your seam is. So I think we're going to go the other direction. I would have gone a different direction. So we're going to press this open again first, And then we're going to press it up. And then I'm going to go ahead and flat fell this seam. So I'm going to go in through here. I'm going to trim back this one that's up closest to the yoke, and then I'll top stitch this one over it. And that's the yoke. So now I'm going to take my pocket, and again I've put my little bit of interfacing in there, basted it down. I've pressed down my 1/4 inch. And what I'm going to do now is to fold, to turn it over so it's on the right side, and to fold the top down. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew 5/8 inch just to below my turn under. So again, I started, my first step was to stitch down that 1/4 inch turnover onto my interfacing, and then my second step was to just stitch the top part of the pocket at 5/8 inch. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clip, and you don't want to clip all of your fabric. You just want to clip from the corner of the where the turn under is up into the corner of the pocket. So you're clipping right to there, not too close, and then you want to get rid of the extra there. Okay, so you're actually clipping in. You can actually get rid of both. You're going to clip in and up, okay, on both sides. This fabric was probably not the best thing to use. So again, I'm clipping the corner. Again, not too close. And then I usually get rid of this and then clean up the underpiece. Okay. And now I'm going to take the pocket, and I'm going to turn it so that we did this with the waistband, remember? And again, this is a great place for you to use your little corner turner to mid pocket. Once I have my stitching in, then what I'm going to do is to take the pocket, and I'm going to work from the side to the center. And I'm just going to take the pocket and take the basting stitch and just give it the tiniest bit of a tug, just enough so that you can see this curve starting to happen. I'm going to push a little bit more down into here. Okay, so that when I turn it over, you can see how that gives you that nice, I could probably even do a little more on this, but it's going to give you this nice, beautiful curve here. So pull very gently your basting stitch so that it gathers up on both sides, but pull from the side to the center. Don't pull it so that the gathering is all the way around. Pull from this side, stop the gathering here, and then pull from this side and stop the gathering again at the center bottom of the pocket. So I'm going to give this a little bit of a pull, not too much, just enough to get rid of that. Give it a little curve. Again, you can put, if you put in too much, you can always take it out. Okay, and you do want the bottom of the pocket to be flat. So now what I'll do is to take my shirt, and I have marked here where my thread marks are, my tailor's tacks. I'm now going to pin the pocket and match up the corners to where my tacks are. And that's going to assure that my pocket, if I get the corner of this pocket exactly on that tack mark. This is why I like Tailor tacks instead of markings. Pin it to hold it in place. I'm going to come down, straight down first. I'm going to turn it under, right. Let that thread, that basting thread, be your guide. So you want the basting thread to be under. You don't want to see it, but you want it to be as close to the edge as possible. And then a pin will go in here. And then I'm going to tuck all this under. Looks like I have a little too much. There we go. Tuck this under here. Again, I'm right on the edge, almost a little more, of where my stitching is. So let that stitch be your guide, because the one thing that you do, you don't only want your pockets to be the same from side to side, but you want your pockets to be the same from right to left. So you have a little bit of a challenge in front of you here. Okay, same thing here. Work it out with your fingers. Turn it under and pin. Oops, this looks like it shifted a little. Make sure it's nice and flat. And now I'm going to stand back and judge it. I'm going to play with this a little bit more until I get it just right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to stitch right along the edge of the pocket. Make sure that you back tack up here, because your pocket gets a lot of wear, with maybe not a lot of wear, but you will be putting things in there, possibly. And I'm going to stitch right along the edge. And because we're doing the double stitched, we're going to go around twice. So we're going to go around the very edge and then 1/4 of an inch in and top stitch again, and that'll hold the whole pocket down in place. Okay, once your pocket is stitched on, I'll let you decide whether you want to run 2 rows of stitching on this pocket or 1. I decided there was so much going on with the texture. I might change my mind, but for now I'm just going to put 1 on. And I'm going to go and clip, of course, always threads. And now I can get rid of my Tailor tacks. So I just have to snip and pull out my Tailor tacks. This is the nice thing about using thread and not using I also recommend for sewing, I'm going to give you a lot of recommendations because tools just make the job easier. If you buy anything, if you buy no other scissors, buy a small pair of embroidery scissors that are really good. These are from Cutco. There's also, and they're really like surgically sharp, so it's wonderful, and they have a really almost dangerous tip to them, but they make work easy. There's another company called Kai, K-A-I. They're a Japanese company. Their scissors are amazing. So I'm going to just show you a little trick with your threads here just to make sure. But I'm now going to go in and you want to pull out the basting that's in the for your Tailor tack, and also don't forget to go into the pocket and take your basting out there. This one, because it's not, none of these should be knotted except where you secured them, but this should pull right out. this basting. So this is the basting I used. So now I've got a little interfacing in the top of my pocket, so it's going to hold nice and stiff when I launder. And it's got a little extra support when I wear it. I'm just going to go in and clean up. If you clean up as you go along, it just makes you feel better about the garment, and it makes it easier in the end. There we go. Okay, so now let me just show you a little trick if I can zoom in a little bit. If you pull, you've back tacked for your pocket, so you should be fine with just clipping. But if you'd like a little extra support, if you take this thread, let's see if I can zoom in here, and if you take this thread and you pull it, you're going to see that the loop, it comes from the other side. And if you take a pin and you go in and pull that loop to the back, this is a great way to secure something that you don't want to back tack. So I've pulled my bobbin and my top thread yarns to both sides. And again, I've back tacked. This is probably not necessary, but it does give it a little bit more support. And I knot it. So I take my top thread and my bottom thread and I just knot them together. And then I clip close to the knot. You don't have to worry about it too much because it's back tacked. So again, over here, do the same thing on this side. I'm going to pull the thread. And there's usually a direction, depending on the direction you sewed. There it is. Where'd it go? There it is. And you'll see, actually, this is a good chance to see this doesn't always work if the thread gets caught. Yeah, so this isn't really going to work on this side. I'm not able to get it through because it caught when I back tacked it here. I wouldn't play with this too long, but it is a way to do it. So what do I do then? I pull the thread back out and just clip it right to where I back tacked it. Any of your basting threads, get rid of those. Sorry, back it up. So get rid of all of your threads in here that were used, any threads that are hanging around, clean it up, and there you go. That's side one, that's the front. So this week we've cut it out, we've put the front together, put the pocket on, the little interface in it. So now you can go ahead and do the other side, and next week we'll do the back and we'll join the front and the back together.